Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. Today's episode, we are going to be going through the balanced data slate. This is going to be a bit of a bonus episode because a lot of things have changed and I want to go through it all. And I did do a live stream on this the other day, but it was like 7 hours long and we were talking about bits and bobs of the balanced data slate. And so, of course, the information was all over the place. So I'm doing this video as a one shot. Let's go through, concentrate on all of the guard stuff, what has changed in the balanced data slate for our faction, and we'll also be covering the stuff that has changed in the Munitorum field manual as well. So let's start off by getting straight into the balanced data slate, and there has actually been one very big significant change here, which is the Lord Solar Leontus can now order Titanic units. Praise be to the Emperor. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Oh, I mean, it's funny. I just start doing the unit reviews for the Titanic units, and I get basically all of them done in the bank, ready to be released over the course of the next week or so. And GW comes in and just invalidates them all. In fact, I think at the time of recording, there's a video that's gone out about the Bane hammer, and it's already out of date, so I must apologize for that. But focusing on the tactical implication, this is actually surprisingly big. It's big from a vibes point of view, and it's big from an actual on the tabletop perspective. So from a vibes point of view, it's obviously a really big deal because guard players, we love big tonks. We love our tanks. What we cannot crush with words, we will crush with tanks of the Imperial Guard. And it has felt very, very wrong it's been a while. It's been since before 2025, because I remember Leontus lost the ability he stopped being able to order everything, and he got limited to being only able to order regiment and squadron. I'm pretty certain that was before Grotmus. So we've been looking down the barrel of at least about 6 months, we'll say about 6 or so months, of him being unable to order Baneblades, and it's just sucked. It just felt so bad. Like the biggest, most imposing, the classic, iconic centerpiece mega tank of the Guard has just been awful. And it's just, I can tell a lot of Guard players have been really just upset about it. Even those that weren't that bothered about actually using the Baneblade, it's just the principle of the thing. So Games Workshop fixing this, definitely, it corrects the ship, it passes the vibe check, and it just makes a lot of Guard players happy. At the end of the day, it can definitely be seen as a bit of fan service, but that's not a bad thing. You know, you should not be totally against servicing your fans, GW. Now, one second. Now, one thing that I think is also worth mentioning is, of course, it's not just about vibes. It's not just about how it feels. It's actually about what can be used on the tabletop. And I actually think this potentially has a huge implication for the tabletop strategy, and also I think could affect a lot of lists, and I think it could actually make Titanics a little anti-meta. So let me give you guys a bit of detail around this. Firstly, one of the big problems that super heavies have had is they struggle with terrain. WTC terrain, UKTC terrain is very, very dense, and even on GW boards it can feel difficult to navigate, to maneuver your super heavy around that terrain. And that has actually been the case for all of 10th edition and previous editions as well. But that's no longer the issue, because with this update coming now, and then the introduction of the Hammer of the Emperor detachment in the Codex itself, we now have super heavies which can go straight forward 12 inches. They can use the crash through stratagem. They can just go through the terrain and they can just land on the other side, and they become extremely maneuverable. Because remember, Baneblades and all the other Guard super heavies have got a 12-inch move. Most Guard vehicles have only got a 10. They've got a 12-inch move. Now, they can receive orders. So this means they could go 15 inches. Now, of course, they wouldn't be able to. Now they can receive orders. They can go 15 inches. Now, of course, that means you're not getting take aim, but it's still, you are solving the number one issue. And I always say this is the number one issue, more than even them losing orders. The number one issue is that Titanic's just too hard to navigate around the board. Hammer of the Emperor, Crash Through, combined with the generally improved movement of these things, the 12-inch movement of the data slate, they are going to be going and they are going to be crashing through. And I think they're going to be doing a lot of damage. And you also want to take into account the fact that a lot of army, the meta shifted, and a lot of armies are moving away from. A lot of armies are moving away from being vehicle and monster heavy. So we've seen over the last sort of 3-6 months, 10th edition go from being a monster and vehicle heavy meta to being a elite melee infantry meta. As a result, we've seen a slight but noticeable reduction in the amount of anti-tank that most players feel they need to include in their list. Well, that's great. If you want to take less anti-tank, that's good, because it creates a bit of room for things like the Baneblade to become a bit of an anti-meta choice. A lot of people poo-poo units like the Guard Super Heavies because they see them as expensive. They're too many eggs in one basket. But let me tell you, I've been in this scenario. I've been on both ends of this scenario a few times. Super heavy units, meme super heavy units like this, like Lord of Skulls, they can seem like memes, and they can seem like something you're never going to face, and not something you don't need to take into account in your competitive list building until you encounter one. And this is where the big difference between sort of theory and reality meets. If you come across a Bane sword, if you come across a Shadow sword, if you come across any of these Guard Super Heavies and you don't have enough anti-tank to realistically deal with one, it is going to cost you the game. So we've got these Titanic units now. They can move. We're going into a meta where they have got less anti-tank threatening them, and the most important thing, of course, is they can now hit the broadside of a barn. We've talked about movement, we've talked about things. I think the most important thing here is the fact that you can now put take aim on your Baneblade. You can now put take aim on your Guard Super Heavy. All of those guns hitting on threes is going to be very, very nice. One thing to mention, though, you can't use Crash Through and the Auto Advance stratagem because Titanic units don't have the squadron keyword, so they can't use the Auto Advance stratagem, but Crash Through does work on them. One other thing I want to mention is I have seen a bunch of people throwing around the meme that you can order like knights now. That doesn't work. If you go and check the wording of the Guard Codex, you will see that it says only Astra Militarum units can be affected by orders. So I think technically speaking, you could order the knight, but the knight would receive no benefit from doing it. But you could order it, but it would receive no benefit. So you're not going to do it. But either way, you can't order knights. This is orders for just the Guard Super Heavies. So that's a big change. I think Hammer of the Emperor Super Heavy. I think into the competitive tabletop, I think we'll see a resurgence of people using their Super Heavies because they're just glad that after 6 months they're going to be good. And I think they are genuinely good now. I'm going off a bit of a tangent here. I'm going around the house a little bit here, but there is something that's important to note. We've never had this combination of orders and Hammer of the Emperor before on Titanic. We could order our Super Heavies in the index, then they took the orders away for the Super Heavies, then the Codex came out, no one was putting Super Heavies in the Hammer of the Emperor detachment because they couldn't receive orders. Now we're at the stage where we've got orders on Super Heavies in Hammer of the Emperor. This, I think, actually creates the potential for this to become part of the Guard meta. It sounds kind of crazy, but there's a lot of firepower in a 500 point, in a 500 point Bane sword. I think there's a real possibility. I don't know if enough people will commit to it. I think enough people will probably see it as a bit of a meme, but I think there is I think what I likely see happen is a bunch of people start using Super Heavies and then they go, oh, I'm not going to use this anymore, and go back to more sensible things. But I think there is a chance that a key part of the Guard meta will become crashing through Hammer of the Emperor Super Heavies. I think there is a chance that becomes a viable, genuine tactic that I don't know if it's tournament winning, but I don't know if it's GT winning. I don't know if it's Super Major winning. I could certainly see it being enough to dominate an RTT. I could certainly see it being enough to go 3-2 or 4-1 at a GT. Could it win a Super Major? That's very hard to say. It takes a lot of combinations of things to happen to win a super major. But at the end of the day, someone did win a super major with a monolith like about a year ago, and that was when everyone said monoliths were terrible. So I don't know. Maybe it could happen. Maybe it could happen. But regardless of that, I think the realistic scenario is super heavies are back on the menu, and that is a very, very good thing. So this is a big positive. Now let's go over to something that's less of a positive, which is the Munitorum Field Manual. This is where we are going to have to get a little bit salty here, guys, because for some reason you can see there is red on this. So I'm just going to go in this straight away. I think that this overall is a bad thing. The changes that have been made here, I think overall are bad. I don't like them. I actually can understand why they've been made, but I think that overall, I'm just going to say it, my guard list was already feeling very, very tight on points. In comparison to where we were with the index, with the codex coming out, I have felt like my balls have been in a vice and that GW has just been squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. And I have shed all fat from my list. There's not a single bit of fat. It's incredibly lean. There's no room for flavor in a guard list anymore. You have to take the most efficient stuff all of the time. And so I was really hoping for some points cuts in this balanced data slate on maybe some of the more flavorful units. I would have liked to have seen a points cut on the Punisher, for example. I would have liked to have seen a points cut on the Manticore, for example. I would have loved to have seen a points cut on Lord Marshal Dreer. Jesus Christ, what's going on with that guy? Unfortunately, none of those things happened. So what we'll do is we'll go through each one of these one at a time, and then we'll sort of go through the pros, cons, and how it's going to affect overall guard lists. So give us a little bit of a zoom in here. So first one we'll start positively is Bulgrin have received a 10% discount. That's actually pretty good. Going down from 220 to 200, going down from 110 to 100. That's actually pretty good. And it's easy to sort of just breeze past that, but don't. I actually want to stop here for a moment in Bulgrin Town. We are in an elite melee infantry meta. That can't be denied. Guard have been really struggling with that because we haven't had very many viable melee choices. Bulgrin getting successively nerfed again and again, definitely at the same time as Eldar, World Eaters, Death Guard, these are many others, Emperor's Children, melee elite armies coming out. It was not a good timing for Bulgrin to get nerfed. Bulgrin are probably the only realistic answer. I did a tactics video on this recently. Bulgrin are even though they're not great, Bulgrin are probably realistically our only answer to being able to just play in the same ballpark as the meta, as the elite melee infantry. It's not necessarily that you're going to be going around beating the crap out of Bulgrin. You just need a unit that can actually take a charge, because Blob Guard can't do it. If you have 20 guardsmen out there, even with a command squad, any half decent dedicated melee unit will cut through all 25, 26 of those models without even blinking. Like the volume is there, the rerolls are there, the lethal hits are there, sustained hits are there, the AP is there. We haven't got Krieg, Marshall, Feel No Pain anymore. They're just going to cut through you. So Bulgars are the only thing where you can actually have a brick wall, you can take a charge and realistically not just completely fold like wet paper. So Bulgrin getting a discount, this is actually good. It's obviously good, but it's not just, oh, a nice to have. This is significant. If I was, and as we'll see in a moment, a Death Corps of Krieg player right now, I would be, who's been running around with blobs of Kriegers with command squads, I would be seriously tempted to drop one of my blobs and put 6 Bulgrin in. Hot take here, I can see 6 Bulgrin becoming semi-mandatory in most competitive guard lists. I can see that straight away. Double down hot take, I think you could see 12 become standard. 2 blocks. Maybe something in between, maybe 3 blocks of 3. But I could see 2 bricks of 6 Bulgrin becoming very, very relevant, becoming very prevalent in guard armies. Will we see the full 18? Yes, in some meme and SKU lists, but I don't think things have changed enough for that to become the go-to way. I think 6 will become a standard issue. I think 12 could become very prevalent, especially if you play. I tell you what, if you play on GW or UKTC, 6 is probably enough. If you play on WTC terrain, you're going to need 12. That's my hot take. Now, we spoke about Deathcore Krieg before. I sort of alluded, bit of foreshadowing. They've been nerfed, and this is baffling. Genuinely baffling. I don't know if it's just GW nerfing the last unit that they hyped up as part of the Codex release, but since, just to put this into perspective, since the Guard Codex has been released, every single Krieg unit has received a points increase and or a nerf. So you've got the artillery teams. They started out at 75 points. They went up to 95 points. We all know what happened to the engineers. They doubled in points, and then they screwed over their ability. Death Riders, they've had a buff. But Death Riders are just, as a data sheet, fundamentally just aren't doing enough. Lord Marshal Dreer, absolutely mega nerfed. They did put the points up on the Krieg heavy weapon teams on that day one FAQ, and they put maybe the, oh no, I tell you what, the Krieg command squad's still going. The Krieg command squad is still going. Okay, that's not so bad then. That's not so bad. They've still got one more to go. So they've still got one more. But coming back to the topic at hand, Deathcore Krieg, 15-point nerf. 20 Deathcore Krieg is now the same as a Lemur's Vanquisher. And let me tell you, I know which one I would rather take. The reason it's baffling to me is because Krieg are so last year, darling. They are. Krieg are so last year. So Krieg were the go-to infantry squad of choice in the index because of the Deathcore Marshal. With the Deathcore Marshal going away, as someone who has used a lot of infantry, generally speaking, and since the Codex has been released and before then, I found myself completely moving away from Krieg. Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, 20 guys just dies. 25 guys just dies. So I'd already moved over to Cadians because I was like, well, I got 20 Kriegers, 20 Cadians. They're both doing exactly the same job. I don't really care about a couple of plasma pistols. I mean, I do care, but I'm willing to forgo those couple of plasma pistols to save 10 points. Because like I said, there's no wiggle room in my guard army list anymore. I need to squeeze every point. I can't afford the luxury of going for those 2 plasma pistols and go for the Deathcore Krieg unit. So I'll save 10 points and go for the Cadians. And you know what? Ever since I've done that, I haven't missed my Kriegers. I miss using the models, but I haven't missed their ability on the tabletop. So GW coming in and being like, aha, bang, 15-point nerf on Krieg. It doesn't actually affect my lists. I know many other Guard players had kind of moved on and had already gone over to Cadians. I know obviously Krieg are very popular and people were still taking them. There were some people that still swore by them. But the effect of this now is GW has basically gone. Yeah, no more Krieg blobs. You don't want to be running Krieg blobs. And the effect is going to be people are going to go over to Cadian blobs. That's it. I think this is... I would personally say this is a change that's come a year too late. And I think that now everyone's going to be running Cadians. That's the effect of this. Moving on, we've got Death Riders. Now, this is nice, but it's meaningless. No one was really running Death Riders. People were running Rough Riders. The one thing I would say about this is we knew... Not like 100% new, but there was a very, very strong chance. We knew GW was going to balance out Death Riders and Rough Riders. We knew that was coming. I think everyone worried they were going to nerf the Rough Riders and bring them up by like 10 points and 20 points respectively. But it turns out that GW decided to lower the Death Riders. So got away with that one, boys. Not that it's, you know, Rough Riders are absolutely, oh my god, like meta busting. But you know, when you ask, oh, GW, you need to make Death Riders and Rough Riders the same points, the monkey's paw would curl and suddenly Rough Riders would be more expensive. So this is nice, but I don't think it's going to be majorly impactful because Death Riders, the datasheet's just a bit fundamentally flawed, unfortunately. However, it is worth noting now that, generally speaking, cavalry is cheaper than infantry. Because infantry you need the blob, and then you need to have all the orders going around with them. Whereas cavalry, they benefit from orders, but they generally have a weapon skill of 3+. They have the 3+ inbuilt, whether it's Death Riders or Rough Riders. They have the 3+ inbuilt. So orders is nice, but not 100% necessary to make them be able to do their job of screening and doing a bit of damage. So I think there is a real chance that you could see some people trying out swapping out their cavalry, swapping out their infantry blobs for cavalry. I still think you probably want Acadians though. In the argument between do I go Death Riders, Rough Riders, or Death Corps of Krieg, I think the answer is you go Acadians. That's my personal take. Moving on, we have got the Lehman Russ Battle Tank. I know exactly why this one was nerfed. Because somebody beat Josh Roberts, the head of the balance team, with them. Okay, that is a little bit facetious. I will just say I'm not trying to promote conspiracy theories here. I'm not trying to promote conspiracy theories. But Josh Roberts was beat at Sheffield Supermajor, and he was using Blood Angels, and he faced off against someone who was using 2 Death Corps of Krieg blobs, Lehman Russ battle tanks, and Kazakin and Tauroxes, and I'm pretty certain Creed was there as well. And all of those key units got nerfed. And then, I'm just saying, all of the Blood Angel stuff got buffs. Josh, my darling, if you're going to watch this, if you'll ever watch this video, you need to make it slightly less obvious. Okay? Okay. Memeing aside, take it, and that is a meme, by the way. I am just taking the piss. The reason why actually Death Corps of Krieg and Lehman Russ battle tanks got nerfed is because there's been a lot of chit and, dare I say, chat around the internet at the moment. There's been some talk of a standard pro guard list that consists of like 60 Death Corps of Krieg and like 2 of these Lehman Russ battle tanks and whatnot. And there's been a lot of people that have been hyping up the Lehman Russ battle tank, saying it's really, really good. It massively overperforms in combined arms. So and there have been some results that have shown battle tanks doing well, Kriegers doing well. So that is probably the reason that has caused them to be nerfed. Personally, I don't think they needed it. I think Death Corps of Krieg units and Lehman Russ battle tanks were very good units, but I don't know. I don't think they needed a nerf. I don't think they needed a nerf, personally. Especially the battle tank. Some people might think I'm insane, who maybe have been on the receiving end of the battle tank, but it's AP-1. It requires too much setup to be good. You need to take a battle tank, then a hellhound, then an exterminator, and you're spending about 300 points on making another tank. Before you even get to the Lehman Russ battle tank firing, you've had to spend points on these other things to tier up. Not nah. Do you want to know the secret sauce? It's the Executioner. If you're in combined arms, you just want to take your Lehman Russ battle tanks and swap them over to Executioners and carry on as normal. If you're wondering how can I possibly adapt to these changes, everyone who's taken Death Corps Krieg blobs, take Cadian blobs. Everyone who's taken battle tanks, take Executioners. You'll be fine. Just do that like for like swap. You'll be all right. The one nerf that I think everybody kind of saw coming was the Taurox. I mean, everyone and their mum has been spamming these things non-stop for 3 months. We knew it was going to come. We knew it was going to come. I think the Taurox getting nerfed by this much, if you're someone that was taking 5 or 6 of them, your list has gone up 50 or 60 points, you're probably going to have to rethink. I think for everyone that was running like 2 of them with 2 squads of Kazakin inside, I think swap your battle tanks out for executioners, swap your Krieg out for Cadians, and you'll find the extra points to keep your Tauruxes going. The big question is, do we now see a resurgence of the Chimera? It's interesting because the Chimera is actually still more expensive than the Taurux. Still 10 points more here. So it's actually, you can't just do that like-for-like swap. You can't, with the battle tank to the executioner, they were similar points, so you can just do that like-for-like swap. This is still, I think, too much of a difference. You can't just go, well, I'll take Chimeras then. Well, you now need to find even more points for your list. I think we might see people switching over to Chimeras for some of their units, because the DACA is very, very nice in the Chimeras. But I think this just forces people to find 20 to 30 points, which they probably should be able to do. Tempest Aquilans going down 10 points. No one gives a shit. Doesn't change it. The unit needs to be changed to 5 or 10 man squads, and it needs to be changed where you get like one special weapon in a 5-man squad, 3 in a 10-man squad. Give them deep strike, and then I know everyone hates when I say this, but Scions, make Scions 50 points for 5, 100 points for 10, and take deep strike away from them. That way, these guys are the deep striking Scions, and they come with 3 special weapons. If you want to do damage, great. Or the deep striking Scions that do objectives really cheaply, great. Have Scion command squads be able to join both. And then these guys, they get more firepower because they get 4 special weapons and they get the weapons on the sergeant as well. But they can't deep strike. So you get more firepower, no deep strike, less firepower, deep strike. Command squads can join both and make a separate Scion commander like the Cadian Castellan, who can join Tempestus Scion squads, and that way they can go inside of Taurox with a dude that can give them an order, and it was all gravy, baby. That's the way you could do it. I mean, I suppose you could try and do that with Cadian Castellans right now, but it'd be nice. Or to make Cadian Castellans be able to join Scions. That's probably another way of doing it. But the point is, that's how, I know we've gone off on one there, that's how you fix Scions, Aquilans across the board, in my humble opinion. Get into the big one, though. So this is probably actually the biggest change, because you can swap Krieg out for Cadians. You can swap tanks out for executioners. You can start thinking about taking some more Chimeras. You know, a lot of people's lists, they can make like-for-like changes. The one you can't do is Creed. This is really hard. I feel like that kid from Matilda who's having to eat all the cake. You can do it, Bruce. That's what it feels like. Creed is making me eat all of the fucking cake. But Bruce did it. Bruce Bogtrotter did it. So can we. You're going to have to find the 20 points. You're going to have to find it. They did it to make a big difference between Cadian Castellans and Creed. What they should have done is put Creed up 10 points and Cadian Castellans down 10 points, or even 5 points. But they didn't do that. It's a nerf, but I think you have to eat it, especially in a combined arms list. If you're in a Hammer of the Emperor list, I don't think you bother with Creed. I think sack off Creed and Hammer of the Emperor and go for Leontus. You want the extra CP anyway, and now you can order your Titanics. So, overall, Bulgrin going down is good. That gives us a proper answer for some of the problems we've had in the meta. Krieg getting nerfed is a bit odd, but there's an easy pivot. Death Riders getting a buff seems meaningless, but there is definitely a theory about taking mass cavalry. Battle tanks getting nerfed is annoying, but there is an easy pivot. Tauroxes getting nerfed was expected. You'll probably just have to find the points where you can. Aquilans getting a buff, fairly meaningless. Ursula Creed going up, probably the biggest sting in the tail here. Taking the Munitorum Field Manual into account and the Balanced Day Slate into account, do I see any major shifts in the Guard meta? No. But also yes. I think for the vast majority, I think for the every man on the street, for the every Krieger in the trench, you're probably just going to continue with taking what you were taking, but probably just doing those like-for-like swaps. I do think that there have been a few interesting, totally new ideas that could be fielded. Crash through super heavies being 1, Borgwins making a comeback being 2, and cavalry replacing infantry being 3. But I think it will take some mad lads and some good players to really push the envelope and see if that works. I think for most Guard players, it's business as usual, few tweaks to be made, and then back to the front lines. But of course, we do have to take into account the wider picture as well. There have been some big changes over the rest of the balanced data slate. We'll go through it quickly. Sisters have had a bit of a resurgence. They've got some points cuts, and now they do get a lot more miracle dice to play with because their Champions of Faith attachment no longer requires you to burn miracle dice to get you buffs. So I think between the points cuts on Sisters and the changes that they've made to these rules, we could see Sisters come back from the brink. Custodes didn't get any major changes, but they did get some changes the field line. So you can see they're doing. I think Mech Sisters could be a thing. Castigator, Immolator going down, that could be a thing. Custodes, they just made the Terminators that are really annoying even more annoying, but otherwise it's Lines of the Emperor still going around beating the crap out of everybody. AdMech, they added the army rule to the Castellan robots. That's big. I think we could see AdMech Castellan robots definitely becoming a thing because I already thought they were a very good unit. The other thing to mention with AdMech is they did make all the chicken walkers cheaper again as well. So if you're someone that's been holding on to those chicken walkers since the beginning of 10th edition when it was your only viable tactic, good news, your investment has come good again. Big change is they absolutely triple dipped Yunari. I think Yunari's probably dead now. I think Eldar is still very, very powerful. I think Yunari, even if it's viable, it's got the taint. You know, it's been tainted by getting triple nerfed. Yeah, I think Yunari's gone now. Blood Angels, Death Company are back on the menu. As we saw with the points change here. Oh yeah, we did get some changes to Eldar points as well. Howling Banshees, Fire Dragons going up. Fire Prism going down is interesting. Shining Spears going down is interesting. Yeah, Yunari just getting triple dipped, man. Where are they? We had the Blood Angels. No changes for Black Templars. Oh, that's not true. Big change for Black Templars, actually. You can now fit, for exactly 2,000 points, 5 20-man bricks of Primaris Crusaders, Grimaldus, High Marshal Helbrecht, the Emperor's Champion, a Castellan, and a Marshal. So you can take 5 bricks of Crusaders and give a character to each one. Exactly 2,000 points. No room for enhancements, though. So Black Tide is back, but as a fun choice. You don't have any action monkeys in that scenario. Blood Angels are back in a huge way. Death Company Marines went down, and now the Death Company models can all... they can bypass all of their negatives by any Blood Angel character being near. So that's big. So yeah, Death Company back on the menu. Chaos Knights and Chaos Demons. I don't think there are any major... There's no major changes in the balanced data slate here. Chaos Space Marines. They actually... The big news of Chaos Space Marines is Disco Fever is back. Lord Discordants are back. I know a lot of people that have a soft spot for this unit, and seeing the Disco Lords make a triumphant return. Disco never died, baby. Disco never died. So that's the big thing with discos. Dark Angels, the lion's been taking his peptides. The lion got juiced. He got juiced up, and then they got a new detachment, which looks really good. So Dark Angels are back. Dark Elder, no a change here, but I think the big change for Dark Elder, if we just go through a bit here, yeah, so you can see Nurgling's got a little bit screwed over. Chaos Knights, no real changes. Chaos Space Marines, they buffed all of the characters that nobody was taking for Chaos Space Marines, so that's why it's more about the Lord Discos. Dark Angels, Death Guard, nothing major there. Where are we going to? Drukhari. So big changes with Drukhari is they've made the Venoms and the Raiders and the Ravagers significantly cheaper. Now, not significantly cheaper individually, but if you were someone who was going classic Dark Fleet, all of them got cheaper. So you should actually be able to get like an extra unit or something. I reckon you could cram an extra Venom in your list, easy peasy, or an extra Raider in your list. Yeah. If you're taking 3 Ravagers, you've just saved 30 points. If you're taking between the Raiders and the Venoms, you're taking sort of 6 or 7 of those, you've saved another 35 points. That's an extra Venom you can cram in your list, or an extra Raider or something. So yeah, I think Dark Fleet getting cheaper is very, very cool. I love it when Drukhari are. I never mind losing to a Drukhari list that's loads of boats flying around me, zipping around. That's how Drukhari should win. I hate it when I get my shit pushed in by a bunch of Taloses. Like, what am I doing? Playing Death Guard here? Yeah, so I like that they're encouraging this style of play with Dark Elder. I'll lose to that every single day, happily. No major changes for G's of the Cult. They just got slightly cheaper biker boys. They made a change to Grey Knights. So I think now they always get reroll ones to hit ranged and melee. So that's good. I think it's a minor change, but I think it's a nice one. Imperial Knights, nothing major. Leagues of Votann, they just made it so that their characters can go in transports now, which is good. Orcs, just tragic. I won't go on it too much, but I'm telling you right now, Cult of Speed was not the answer to fixing the Orcs' woes. Being able to shoot and declare charge to turn in which you fell back on all of the crappy buggies it's a nothing burger. It's not significant enough, unfortunately. Necrons, no major changes to their rules, but it is important to note. Oh yeah, Emperor Children. Emperor Children, they nerfed the Demon Prince, Loose Eternal, and Noise Marines. You're still going to take Demon Prince, Loose Eternal, and Noise Marines, because you can nerf all the best bits, but you're still going to have to take the best bits, right? Yeah. So Emperor Children, they've taken a nerf, but they'll probably take it on the chin or up the bum, depending on which way they prefer it. They are Emperor Children after all. They might like that. Like I said, Jesus of the Cult, nothing major for them. Grey Knights, they've tried to make Terminators a bit better, which is cool. Imperial Agents, no changes. Imperial Knights, no changes. Leagues of Votann, no changes. Necrons, this is what we're talking about. They've made Canoptic better. So they haven't, it's not massive. I mean, if you were taking like a couple of big bricks of Wraith, you've saved like, what, 20 points? It's not massive, but there's a lot of little changes. There's a lot of 5 points here, 10 points there. Probably, you save, I think, you know, you save yourself to 40, 50 points on a Necron list, but overall, Canoptic got better. Orcs, yeah, it just doesn't matter. You can make all these things cheaper. It's not going to be a big deal. Giving my Rucker Truck Squig Buggy a 5-point decrease isn't going to make it any good. But anyway, big sad. Space Marines, oh yeah, the heavy incestors continue to get cheaper. Space Marines, I think they lost the crazy Ultramarine Marnius Calgar and Gilliman shenanigans, but they're making out like bandits. Hellblasters being cheaper now with the new Dark Angel detachment is very, very nice. Heavy Intercessors getting cheaper. I mean, you can run 60 Heavy Intercessors for 1,200 points. That's, I don't know if you would, but I think Helens suffer from just being slow, but I think they are very cheap. Yeah, I think they are very cheap. No close combat capability is what's holding them back in this current meta. Yeah, Space Marines overall doing well, although Ultramarines getting nobbled. Space Wolf points, these are just, it looks like a lot of buffs, and it is, to be fair, but you have to remember that the codex this is just to correct the points that got printed, essentially. Now, I'm going to breeze past a few other things here. Space Wolves. Tyranids got a bit better. Yeah, Tyranids, the Psychophage got interesting. And the Psychophage got interesting, and they gave another points decrease to the Screamer Killer, which I love the Screamer Killer. I think it's the best of the new Tyranid models. I think they just got it so right. So that's great. Hive Guard going down. I don't know enough, but my instinct is that probably it's still not quite enough to tempt people to take them. But hey, I own 3, so I'll be using it. Bringing the Hive Tyrants, bringing all the Hive Tyrants down makes sense. As someone who has been a Tyranids, I always find it really hard to justify putting a Hive Tyrant in my army. So Psychophage got interesting, but a little points increase. Screamer Killer got a big points buff. Well, got another points buff. It started out the edition at like 200 points or something insane. It's had a big points decrease over the course of 10th edition. Now, that is all very interesting, but the big one we need to talk about is Tau. Okay? The big one we need to talk about is Tau. They had a few points nerfs. Carnivores and stealth suits. I'm going to be real with you. It's not enough. I'm going to make a bold, hot statement right now. Tau meta incoming. They just turbo juiced the whole army. It's insane. So what they've done is they have essentially finally caved in to the Tau players' demands, because Tau players have been complaining for a long time. And do you know what they were complaining about? They were complaining that they had to think. You see, traditionally how Tau has won games is it has pointed at enemy units, and then those enemy units have disappeared. And it's pointed at another enemy unit, and then that enemy unit has disappeared. And it's just been point, click, and delete, essentially. Point and delete. Over the course of 10th edition, Tau players were forced to have to actually think. You have this unit has to pair with this unit to get the buff. And then if you don't shoot the unit that you were aiming for, there's a downside. This didn't play into the Tau players' preference of spam battlesuits and table 5-year-olds. I know I'm being a little harsh, Tau players. I love you, really. I have a giant Tau army. I'm allowed to complain about it. How it works now is one of your units spots an enemy unit, and then any other unit in your army that goes for that enemy unit gets +1 to hit. And if you've got a marker light, you ignore cover. When I say if you've got a marker light, if the unit that did the spotting is a marker light. So if you have, let's say, 2 or 3 units that do the spotting, then you get all those buffs against the 2 or 3 enemy units. So you know how, like with Space Marines, you do Oath of Moment, and you have to pick one unit at the beginning of the turn, and then that's what you get to Oath. And then if that dies, that's it. You rest of your firepower is just going to be less good. Tau don't have that problem. Tau just go, I'm going to mark up that one, and that one, and now my whole army is going to get +1 to hit against all of those, and I can split fire as much as I want, because the whole not shooting at your mark target thing isn't a problem anymore. Yeah, it's such a massive, massive buff. My main issue with this is it's a massive, massive buff on an army which is like better pointed than Guard. You see, Tau have been going through a transitionary phase recently where they've basically become Xenos Guard. And obviously, I think that's a really, really good thing. I am biased, but I also think it's a really good thing because it gets rid of the whole just they only have one trick, spamming battle suits, tabling people, ruining games. And so Tau, over the last 10 months, have actually been really fun to play with and to play against. I've been to a number of tournaments with Tau, and people on both sides have enjoyed the games. I've won games, I've lost games. Tau have actually felt not oppressive. And my big issue with this is, yes, I acknowledge it simplifies things. Yes, I acknowledge that maybe a few Tau players were getting butthurt. They had to use some brain cells. But I think this overcorrects it, oversimplifies it, and massively juices it up. I really think it does. But you know what? Even if it does, at the end of the day, there's only like nine months probably, realistically, of 10th edition left over. So we can all endure what were they up to, like the 6th sphere of expansion for 9 months before hopefully 11th edition comes along and fixes everything. But yeah, it's very, very powerful. Stealth suits got a points increase, but it absolutely was necessary because stealth suits give you reroll 1s to hit and reroll 1s to wound. So to put this into perspective, if you're in Monka, for example, if a stealth suit unit spots an enemy unit, and if you have 3 stealth suit units, you could spot 3 enemy units and do this. Every single unit in your army would then get +1 to hit, ignores cover, reroll 1s to hit, reroll 1s to wound, and they'd have assault, and they'd have lethal hits. That's quite good. That's very good. And you might say that's just a Monka, but that's just one example. You go Cayune and go for, you're going to have sustained hits and ignore modifiers instead. Still pretty good. So, yeah, I think Tau are now the masters of stacking buffs. And the problem is that it's really, really, really easy for them to do it. Really easy. If we compare this to Guard, my detachment rule gives me lethal hits some of the time. Not all of the time, some of the time. Admittedly, you know what? Let's balance it out because they only get it for 3 turns and I get lethal hits from vehicles on vehicles and infantry on infantry. So let's just balance it out, right? So we both get lethal hits. Okay. And I get +1 to hit from take aim. Don't got the rerolls. Because I need more than 1 unit to get the rerolls. If I wanted rerolls, I'd have to get Scout Sentinels in. Don't got the rerolls. Don't got the ignores cover. Because again, I'd have to add another unit in to be able to get that effect. Don't got the assault. So Tau can have like 5 buffs. Tau can have 6 buffs with 1 unit going marked up. Guard can have 2 buffs, and that's only on a limit. That's not on a whole army either, because the way our officers work is we have to put that on one of our units, not pick an enemy unit. So you can have 1 unit, pick an enemy unit, and your whole army gets +1 to hit against that unit. I can have an officer at best pick 2 of my units to have +1 to hit. So I have 33% less buffs than you, and I need to spend a lot more points if I want to try and match you on the level of buffs that you're bringing, because I'd have to, if I wanted rerolls, I need to add in the cost of a Sentinel. If I wanted Norse cover, I need to add in the cost of a Hellhound. If I can't even get Assault unless it's on Catachans from a command squad. So, am I salty? Yeah. Am I jealous? Yeah. Am I biased? You betcha. But am I wrong? I don't think so. So yeah, I think Tau are going to be very, very good now. I think they were fine before. I think Tau players are having a bit of an identity crisis before because they weren't just like one slotting people. But now I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be really good. But hey, on a serious note, the Tau community knows probably more about this than I do. They have been saying they need a bit of a juice. I think this is personally too much, but I could be wrong. And the main thing is, if it is too much, who cares? Because in 3 months' time, GW will fix it. One thing you can say is that these balanced data slates, they do come around very quickly. And so if something is broken, they do tend to act fairly quickly. There we go. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to never miss an episode. And of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.